evening and welcome to Biz Pulse with me, Cindy Mabi, standing in for Clive Ramatabiela-Smith. And as tradition would have it, we have to honor Clive in how he introduces the show. So, halala! Good evening to you and welcome. Let's take a look at the latest business news headlines. Citibank is set to face the Competition Tribunal tomorrow. This after the bank reached a settlement agreement with the Competition Commission on its role in the forex trading cartel. Outrage after a white man threatens to attack a black woman inside a Spur restaurant goes viral. The man is banned from Spur after attempting to overturn a table during the heated argument. And Goldman Sachs will shift jobs away from London while bulking up its European presence by hundreds of people as it executes on Brexit contingency plans. Time now for the top story of the day. Citibank's Competition Tribunal hearing will be tomorrow. The hearing comes after the bank reached a settlement agreement with the Competition Commission on its role in the forex trading cartel. Citibank in February agreed to pay an administrative penalty amounting to 69 million rand. The bank will most likely be off the hook in relation to the charges. The Commission found that 18 banks, including Citibank, Standard Bank, Absa and Barclays Capital, agreed to collude on prices for bids and offers for US dollar-rand spot trades. The collusive practice started in 2007.
The tribunal will be hearing the application by the Competition Commission to have the settlement concluded with Citibank be confirmed as an order of the tribunal. This is a normal process that happens in every settlement, wherein the agreement that the Commission reach with respondents in any investigation has to be confirmed by the tribunal as an order. The Commission agreed with Citibank that Citibank will provide witnesses to prosecutions of other banks. By concluding this settlement, the Commission has strengthened its evidence against the other banks that are facing prosecution. Any bank that is willing to settle with the Commission can come forward and approach us. We will still talk to them even during this process of prosecution.
Former Department of Social Development Director General Zane Dango is the latest victim of crime. Dango's house was broken into on Monday. He says 2 cars pulled up at his home and the occupants asked Dango's helper to open the gate. When she refused, they forced their way into the house and became involved in an altercation with his son. The assailants left empty-handed and no case has been registered.
With prominent crime seemingly rising, a number of South Africans raise their eyebrows in concern and question security in an already eventful 2017. First was the multi-million rand heist at the OR Tambo International Airport, followed by the break-in at the Chief Justice offices where equipment with valuable information was taken. Next was the break-in at Zane Donga's house, who was the former DG of the Social Development Department. Next was the phone robbing of Advocate Batlander, who was representing Black Sash at the most recent SASSA appearance at Constitutional Court. With everyone jumping to conclusions of links and possible intimidation, Richard Mamabolo, spokesperson of Police and Prisons Civil Rights Union, says that worry is not needed, but these events need to be looked into and solutions found. Giovanni Majani for ANN7, Johannesburg.
There are patterns. The pattern of events that have been happening, of course, would obviously, and these are high-profile patterns, of course, are definitely worrying. Though we can't judge them in the same light, because we had come out as PopCo to definitely say that, the Chief Justice's office, that one will that is something that was planned. But again, the trends tend to lead to perception. Whether true or not, whether they are, of course, linked or not, the fact of the matter is that you've got these trends that are happening concurrently, which obviously would suggest to the people of South Africa that something is not right. And of course, it's not something we can undermine. This might not necessarily be a security weakness. Like we say, that some of the things might definitely be planned, you see. The only thing is that we might not be at this moment in a position to say from which angle do they come from, you know. But a lot of suspicions are being raised, and of course, I think the security industry needs to ensure that there are no such panic.
At about 3:30, thereabouts, I was on my way back from Wits. I picked up my wife. We both got calls from my son and my daughter, who at this point were already locked in their rooms, together with their helper and my granddaughter, saying that there are people in the house. They also then proceeded to using their cell phones to call the police and our security company, but they didn't take anything and then left. Now we could assume that they felt they needed to leave before the police come, or they didn't find what they were looking for. The only thing that I think they could perhaps be looking for would be my laptop, which was not in the house at that point. This was either thieves who didn't want to, there's nothing that they had, or it was an act of intimidation.
Ndango may suspect foul play, but he's failed to produce any evidence to substantiate the claims. Similar motives are being assigned to other robberies over the last few days. The DA's John Steenhuisen tried to link State Security Minister David Mahlobo to the break-in at the Chief Justice Office. Black Sash lawyer Jeff Bolander's cell phone was also stolen in a separate incident. Bolander says that the incident happened during a standard hold-up in traffic. South Africa commemorates Human Rights Day with events held across the country. The commemorations occur amid ongoing incidents of injustice and racism. NN7 reporter Nobesutu Hejane compiled the story.
President Jacob Zuma says he is appalled about racism that still exists in the country. Zuma was addressing the official Human Rights Day event in King Williamstown. The event honored Black Consciousness Movement leader Steve Biko, who died in apartheid police custody in 1977.
On Human Rights Day, we celebrate and reaffirm our commitment to the hard-won human rights that are enshrined in the Constitution of our country. The marking of this day was born out of the huge sacrifices made by brave men and women who fought for freedom in the face of extreme brutality by the apartheid regime.
Meanwhile, Gauteng Premier David Makura called for South Africans to unite. Makura was speaking at an event commemorating the 1960 Sharpeville massacre.
In Gauteng province, when we have days like this, we want to see all the parties setting aside their political differences, so that we can say this day belongs to all South Africans. This day belongs to all of us. This day belongs to those who were killed on this day.
DA leader Mosi Maimane called on the youth to play a bigger role in ensuring a better country for all.
I stand here as a South African who says, like me, like many South Africans, suffered under apartheid, we've got to stand up here today and say, how do we ensure that with the legacy that we have here today, we address that injustice and build an inclusive South Africa for all? That is the struggle, and when we talk about human rights today, it's a journey that we've got to build towards securing the rights of all South Africans.
Highlighting on the significance of celebrating events like the Sharpeville massacre, Premier David Makura said it is important for the government to take an opportunity to report back on the communities on the work they have done thus far. Nobesuti Ejana, Sharpeville.
A video of a white man threatening to attack a black woman inside a Spur restaurant at the Glen Shopping Centre has raised several concerns. The video shows the two arguing about one child bullying the other. The altercation took a turn for the worst when the man threatened to hit the woman. The children were forced to witness the verbal abuse and are visibly shocked. Let's see what actually transpired.
Look at your child's size, hitting against the head.
Excuse me?
Yes.
The child is so tiny.
Hey, I'm looking through the window and she's hitting my child against the head.
Look here. You won't come here and be a bully. Just leave us alone.
Is that so?
You can't come here and be a bully.
Is that so?
Such a big man, being a bully.
I'm telling you to do something.
Just fuck off. I don't do anything.
I show you
No, stop it! You stop it!
Hey, this is a woman. No. You can't get back to talking. The next one I say back to you as a problem. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. You are not. You too. Fuck you. Such a big man and a tiny woman. Sis. But why don't you hit each other? This is a democratic country if you haven't noticed. I came here to use my money. You can't come in and tell me fuck me. When I tell you fuck you, you get all hit down. Shut up. I'm not talking to you. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. I'm not talking. Listen here. You can't come here and bully us. Just because I'm black. Is it because I'm black? Is it because I'm black? Listen. Is it because I'm black? How? Your child was busy bullying my child. Just because my child is fighting, it's a problem. Ma, sis.
The restaurant staff is accused of not doing enough to stop the altercation. Spur says the incident is the subject of an investigation. They say they tried to intervene. It has now issued a statement expressing shock at the adults for behaving in the manner that they did. As soon as the incident escalated, Tuxamo Spur staff notified the Glen Shopping Centre Mall security. And we do not condone any form of violence against women or children. And the man in the video is not welcome at Spur restaurants nationally. Goldman Sachs will shift jobs away from London while bulking up its European presence by hundreds of people as it executes on Brexit contingency plans. Whether European expansion would reflect the moving of jobs out of London or the hiring of new personnel on the continent, the company says the plans would reflect two strategies. It says it will hire people inside of Europe itself and therefore there will be some movement. Goldman Sachs also confirmed that this movement away from London would not necessarily result in a net reduction of workers in the UK. The company employs around 6,000 people in London, and the comments from Goldman Sachs underscores the extent of Brexit-related uncertainty gripping the UK's financial industry. And joining us on the phone line is David Crook, a global economist from Atlanta. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Crook. Just the extent of the Brexit, I think we're seeing the ramifications thereof now that the deadline is pending. With Goldman Sachs' reaction, are we likely to see similar moves from other companies?
Cindy, good evening, and good evening to your viewers. The simple answer to that is absolutely yes. You wouldn't be running a business effectively if you didn't have contingency plans in place, particularly given that we don't know what the outcome of the Brexit negotiations will be. So this is really contingency. It's nothing untoward. I would expect other financial service companies to make similar decisions, but I will also make a prediction, if I may, on air. And that is that London will continue to be the world's premier main financial center going forward. More so than New York, more so than Frankfurt or Paris, more so than Singapore. It will remain the major financial center in the years to come.
All right, maybe give us the details as to your crystal ball, what you see there, because there was also uncertainty as to the impact that Brexit will have on bilateral agreements and also retaining the UK's position as a preferred investment destination and also, part of other countries' economies.
It will be complicated. As I said, this process has never been instituted, has never been dealt with before. Article 50 has never had to be called upon. But with that, everybody will be sensible about this in their best interest. Yes, of course, Frankfurt would love to be the premier financial center in Europe. But with that being said, London has worked for centuries to take that place. Geographically, it's particularly well placed between the Americas and the rest of the globe. English is the premier business language globally. That won't change anytime soon. It's not going to become German or French. There are a whole lot of reasons why Theresa May and her cabinet will change the rules such that it will still be beneficial for companies to hold their head offices and big presences in the City of London.
All right, so no big concerns in terms of the jobs that are at stake here, with Goldman Sachs saying that they're likely to move personnel, 6,000 of those out of the UK, but possibly looking at Paris and other countries as well.
Yes, and I don't think it'll only be those, by the way. Eastern Europe centres like Krakow and a number of them are actually looking and advertising for financial and just service jobs in general. And if you were living in the UK and you weren't certain how things were going to pan out, you would be applying for those jobs, would you not? So I don't think any of this is a real big surprise. I will tell you that the German finance minister, Wolfgang Schäuble, said that in everybody's best interest, London had best keep it certainly a very big presence in financial services because they have no idea how they're going to step their games up in other European centres to just to step in and fill a void. That won't happen. So it'll be a slow process. I certainly don't think Goldman are being in any way, they're reacting sensibly. They're putting a plan in place so that they've got all bases covered.
Yeah, but David, you remember the naysayers saying that this was a terrible idea to allow for the UK to vote in a referendum format or whether they should exit the EU per se. Are you saying now in retrospect that this has actually been the best thing that could happen?
Cindy, it's funny you say that because I was actually in favour of Brexit, and I have 2 children living in the UK, by the way. They might not agree with me, just for the record. But that being said, I do believe there are some benefits to the UK being separate. On the trade issues, aside from financial service issues, on the trade issues, by the time Article 50 is complete in 2 years' time, however long it takes them to negotiate that Brexit process, the UK will have many trade agreements in place, least all with Australia, the United States, and some of their... perhaps South Africa would be one of those, I would imagine, from a resource perspective. So I really have no qualms about it. The difficulty is the next 2 years when we have this uncertainty and no one knows what the rules are or what the rules will be. Human nature does not do well with uncertainty, and it's going to be a little difficult until such time as the process is complete, and that's not around the corner.
Yeah, what difference does it make if Theresa May will only make the official announcement whether the UK will pull out of the EU on the 29th of March? Is this just an administrative process?
That's exactly what it is. They literally have not had official negotiations yet, and they can't do so until the country in discussion, i.e. the UK in this instance, actually institutes and calls for Article 50 to begin. So the day that happens, then we can have the different bodies, whether it be on the trade side, the financial side, the tax side, all the various committees will then sit down opposite each other across tables and negotiate their way out of the existing relationships that they've built over the decades.
And what does it mean for the other EU bloc nations with the UK now pulling out of the EU? David?
I think the biggest picture is, sorry, I was thinking and can't do 2 things at once, think and talk. I believe that the biggest issues here are how is the European Union going to survive given that one of our biggest members has now pulled out? And of course, we've had, I guess, 2 good days this week. The Dutch elections went relatively well as far as the European Union is concerned. The French debate last night, I think people begin to think that maybe Marine Le Pen is not going to be the next president of France, and that's a scary thought in and of itself. So it's had a good week. But how are we going to hold this thing together given that even our 3rd largest member chose to depart? And it's interesting. It's uncertain, and I've used that word a number of times on this chat, Cindy, and it's going to remain uncertain for months and months to come.
Yeah, but nothing dramatic like changing the currency, for example, in this group. You know, with everybody adopting their own, be it the Deutsche Mark or the franc, the French currency going back to its original format.
No, so I think the 19-member Eurozone, certainly for the time being, is intact. So the euro itself, that currency, will be around for a while yet. However, there are risks in play. There are definite risks in play. Keep in mind, we have a temporary government in Italy, the 3rd biggest member of the Eurozone, not the European Union, the Eurozone. If Italy, when they next go to the polls, tie a referendum to that election, that in and of itself is another risk to the European Union and Eurozone. So there are a lot of uncertainties out there. Europe's in a tough spot this year. We have French presidential elections I've already talked about. We have German elections. So whether Angela Merkel, the leader of Europe, remains the Chancellor of Germany, we will only find out in September. Interesting times, and certainly Europe's got a whole lot on their plate right now, and hopefully they've learned a lesson from this. These Eurocrats sitting in Brussels, Luxembourg to a degree, really need to wake up and understand that they're not running the show any longer. The people of Europe have wills and wishes as well, which they expect now to be met.
All right, let's shift focus now quickly with the United States President Donald Trump confirming that Ivanka Trump, his first daughter, will now take office in the White House, having access to confidential and secret information. He's really just going to town, doing as he pleases, as his persona is anyway. Any concerns around his presidency so far? We know that he had threatened to build a wall between Mexico and even frustrate the Chinese manufacturers and trying to keep everything in-house in the U.S. Has the dust settled and any shifts, radical shifts expected from the U.S. president?
No, the dust has not settled, and he's certainly creating a whole lot of dust. On the Ivanka question, not an issue at all, I don't believe. She's going to have to go through the same security concerns that every person in the White House does. If she's of reasonable, sound mind and honest and all the other things, then that'll be fine. And he'll have another ally within the White House with all the... you and I don't understand, I don't believe, what goes on in these political institutions, but it sounds complicated and ugly at times, so he has another ally on board. I don't think that's a major issue, neither here nor there. In terms of what's going on in the U.S., if there's one policy where I really disagree with Trump, it's on his trade policies. We live in a global world. You can't undo that overnight. But he is trying to show who the big boy on the block is, and there is no competitor, by the way. 24.3% of world GDP is the U.S., and China comes a second at somewhere around 14.8%. So it really isn't close at the end of the day. So hopefully just bearing his big chest, doing a Putin perhaps, and things will settle down as these trade talks get underway. The Chinese premier is coming to visit the U.S. in the very near future. And in fact, one of our secretaries has actually chosen not to go to NATO talks, but to stay in the U.S. to be here when the Chinese premier is here. So I do believe that they recognize how important this relationship and these talks are, and they will address them over time. Mistakes have been made. They will continue to make mistakes as they feel their way through this new running a large entity.
Yeah, but do you think that Donald Trump realizes that he's essentially riding on the success of Barack Obama, especially that he's not even in office for that long? Or is it just a narcissist to a point where it is only about him?
I'm not sure that's right. At the end of the day, he was voted in as the U.S. president in free elections. So he feels he's got the backing of the American people, and he will do what he told him he was going to do on the trail. He hasn't introduced anything new. Everything he's doing or trying to do, and by the way, his biggest thing is having some hurdles right now, and that is changing the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare as you might know it as. and there are some road bumps for the Republicans in that regard already. By the way, markets are down 191.52 points this evening, the Dow, because of that mainly. So he has a long slog ahead of him, not going to be plain sailing, even though the Republicans have control of the House and the Senate.
Yeah, but just on a softer issue, does it matter that he's not seen as this doting husband with the wife very miserable? Often there's this cold distance between them.
I don't think most American people even see that. At the end of the day, Americans vote with their pockets, Cindy. And if Trump is able to introduce tax cuts, such that he said he would, he will have far more support around the states than he even had on election night, I would believe. Americans are well known for voting with their pockets. So taxes are extremely higher, both from a corporate perspective and from an individual perspective. And these things about the family and everything else, I don't know that they take much cognizance of that, to be honest with you.
All right, David, thanks so much. We're going to bid you farewell. David Crook, he is an international economist speaking to us on the Brexit issue and, of course, what it would mean for London, with Goldman Sachs already saying that they will pull at least 6,000 jobs out of the UK as part of their contingency plan to take office in the rest of Europe. We'll take a quick ad break and we'll see you shortly.